welcome to Ensuring Success 2022. We are so happy that you are here to join us for, we hope, 2 days of continuing professional education that we will be providing you with the help of incredible thought leaders from the profession. So we're looking forward to sharing these 2 days with you. I am Gail Perry, Editor-in-Chief of CPA Practice Advisor magazine. And I would like to, before we get started, I'd like to just quickly thank our sponsors who are making this event possible for all of us. And they are ADP, Avalara, BotKeeper, Corpay One, CPA.com, Canopy, Caseware, Field Guide, eFile for Biz, Intuit, Right Networks, SafeSend, SureLink, TaxFile, Sage, Tech Guru, Xero, and Zoho. So we really thank all of them because we would not be here without the help of our sponsors. And I'd also like to mention how CPE is delivered for this event. So during the event, you will receive, during each session, you will receive 3 CPE codes, and we will call attention to them with the help of a little bell. All right, and that bell will tell you that it's time to record a CPE code, and you'll receive a random number that you can take note of, and then at the end of the day, just go to the Get CPE button or menu choice at the top of our screen, and you can enter the codes that you collected and download your CPE certificates. This particular session, which is, it's sponsored by Intuit, and this session is your key to successfully providing tax advisory services. Before we start, I'm going to introduce our speakers, but first of all, I just want to point out the fact that there is an Ask a Question option on the bottom of your window that you're looking at right now. And at any time during the session, if you have any questions for our speakers, or if you're having any difficulty viewing the event, or need to share any information with us, please enter it there and we will take note. And now I'd like to introduce our speakers. Next to me I have Jim Buffington, Jackie Meyer, Sean Duncan, and Alexandra DeFelice, and I'll have each of them introduce themselves right now. Jim, you want to start?
Thank you so much, Gail. We appreciate you sponsoring Ensuring Success again this year. My name is Jim Buffington. I lead advisory services for Intuit Accountants, which my purpose is really helping our profession lead with advisory services to really unleash your amazing financial acumen and help power prosperity for clients. And I'm privileged to do that at Intuit. And I've also been leading our product launch this year, Intuit Tax Advisor, which helps support firms that want to lead with tax advisory.
Hi, I'm Jackie Meyer. I'm the CEO and founder of formerly Meyer Tax because it was just acquired, so watch that session tomorrow. The Certified Concierge Accountant Coaching Program for accountants, and then Tax Plan IQ, a SaaS software for accountants as well.
And my name's Sean Duncan. I'm the owner of SMD Consulting and Accounting, actually here in Dallas where we're recording. Also, I own Chief Proactive Advisors LLC, which is an education program for CPAs on how to move to advisory. And so my passion, my firm is known for giving advice. We don't prepare tax returns, we just do the advice part. And that's our specialty and how we help clients out.
And I'm Alexandra DeFelice. I'm Director of Marketing and Business Development for Pain & Fears, a law firm in Southern California, and I will be co-moderating with Gail all day today and tomorrow.
All right, so we're ready to begin this session. And I'd like to start by asking our panel, since this is a session about tax advisory services, what do we actually mean by that? And I think a lot of people who may be watching do tax preparation services and maybe advise their clients, but they may not put that together in a package called advisory services. So what do we mean by that?
Sure. Most tax preparers do provide advice, and oftentimes they mix that in with the tax preparation, and some even do tax planning, which tends to be more focused on the tax liability and getting those estimates right and avoiding surprises. When we talk about tax advisory, we generally mean that you're meeting proactively with clients, you're aligning with their goals, you're setting strategies in place for both short and long term. And then the deliverable looks different with tax advisory. You're actually quantifying the tax savings associated with each of those strategies and then communicating that to the client so that they can actually see how much of an impact that you're bringing to the table, and really helps elevate your value as a tax advisor.
Yeah, I was kind of joking that, we have all these different words and acronyms for the different services we provide, and I wish that we had one that we could all agree on. Tax advisory service seems kind of like the new fad, TAS or TAS versus CAS or whatever. But yeah, it's about being proactive. It's about that ongoing advisory relationship with your client.
Honestly, just stripping it back even more simply than that, advisory is anything where you take your gift and knowledge and share it with someone else. It doesn't have to be overthought. I think the weight that we all carry of like, okay, I got to do these numbers and I got to get this ratio and oh my gosh, the client's going to be mad. Y'all, the client does not actually understand. So the beauty of it is you tell them, you do know you can write off that cell phone. You know you can add a retirement account. You help them with choosing a SEP versus a 401k. That's tax advisory. It's truly nothing more complicated than you having your knowledge and sharing that with the client so they can make decisions and save them money, build more wealth, whatever it is. The blanket of advisory is truly anything where you share with someone and give them your information. I was actually telling Jackie, shoot, you tell me how to make a really good cupcake. That's advisory. It may not be tax advisory unless I can find a deduction for it somehow, but it's really just telling them. It's nothing more complicated than that. And that's the thing, is there's so much out there that makes it seem overwhelming, and it doesn't have to be. Jim hit on it. It's the proactivity, though. It's having that conversation throughout the year, or at least just an end-of-year planning meeting. Just right now, set a meeting with a client and go, this is what I want you to deduct this year instead of waiting till next year. Congratulations, you're now an advisor. Oh, by the way, charge for that, please.
I was just going to ask you that because I think as you're having this conversation, I think people are probably doing that already, like the part where they're like, oh, did you know this and that? And they're not like adding that to the bill. They're just doing it out of the goodness of their heart.
You're so gracious and giving. It's so wonderful. But I mean, we have this, accountants are givers. We tend to be givers and we want to help people and we want to share our gifts. But the problem is we're hurting ourselves in that process. And so be a business owner. Build it into a plan. I mean, use software. Jackie has some awesome software for this kind of stuff. Intuit has amazing tools. Use the tools you have, but just make sure that there's a model around it. And I was just teaching a session at QuickBooks Connect last week, and an attendee, I told Jim this was pretty funny. I chatted with an attendee after my first session. After the second session, she came running up to me and said, oh my gosh, I made $10,000 more because I charged for the thing you said to charge for that I wasn't going to before. $10K she made in 24 hours. That's how much money's out there for you guys. And so if you want to just be really focused, I either can help people more or I can make people more money. Oh, guess what? I can make myself money by doing the same. That's advisory.
The good news is that tax advisory is like the easiest thing to measure. So like I have a trademarked ROI method of tax planning, and I mean, you just visualize out, what can I save the client? What's their investment in you? What's that net ROI? And it's by far the easiest advisory service to quantify for the client.
I think we're going to talk a little bit more about how you can specifically help your clients with advisory services and some things that you can put into that sort of that bucket. But what would you say are the advantages of, I mean, obviously maybe more money and better relationships with your clients, but in a little more detail, what would be, why would it be advantageous to add advisory services to a tax practice?
Oh gosh, well, I just did a session at Accountex Canada on workaholism. And this was my way out of workaholism. This was my way to health. So it's so much bigger than just tax work or accounting work or whatever we're doing. Like Sean said, we want to help people just like everybody else. And so we tend to give a little too much. And so this is a way that we can kind of take that balance and control back while also still being a huge blessing to the clients.
And I'm sure none of us have any challenges with finding employees in tax practices. I mean,
No.
Everybody signs up for 6 months of their year to be 90-hour weeks, and so that's easy. I mean, how about employee satisfaction? the employees don't want to do that job any more than you do. So why not start rolling in recurring work or proactive work where you can work 40-hour weeks, still make more money? Because you can charge more money than you can for the prep. Yeah. So if you make more money, you have to work less, your employees are more fulfilled, everything just starts to work better. I mean, there's dozens of reasons why to do advisory. I mean, you can go out there and find articles. I've got them in my sessions. I know that Jim's talked about them. There's tons of Intuit articles on it. But really, what is it you're trying to accomplish? But for me right now, the one that I'm seeing the most is fulfilled employees. And man, if my employees are fulfilled, I can attract more employees. I get to keep them longer, which is nice. You know, they don't bail out immediately on April 16th, which, by the way, is irrelevant to me because I only do advice. So tax season's irrelevant to me. So if you don't like tax season, how about get rid of tax season? That's an option too.
Right.
And that's a good teaser for those who are sticking around for the rest of the day, that I think it's session 5 today is your firm's employee improvement plan, and we will be delving into that.
I did not do that on purpose.
So thank you.
Yeah, I think you're really hitting on what we find firms that have moved towards leading with advisory services. It's all about quality of life. And they get to that point of being overworked, feeling overworked, underappreciated, undervalued, don't feel like they're necessarily making that much of a difference with their clients. And that's that sort of moment where they begin to get on the journey to lead with advisory. We just released a new taxpayer insight survey at Intuit, and there's some really good benchmarks that come out of that as we talk to taxpayers, as we talk to firms that really support the case for tax advisory. 8 out of 10 of your clients, people who pay a tax preparer today, are absolutely willing to pay more to an advisor if they can show better financial outcomes. And yet our firms say that only 17% of their revenue comes from advisory. So there's a huge gap in terms of what our taxpayers are saying they're willing to pay for and what the pros are actually engaging in. So lots of opportunity there to really lean into that. And Alexandra, if you have a chance, maybe even drop that link into the chat.
Yeah, I'll put the link to this survey. I know there were some other interesting results in there. Is this a good time for you to share some of those numbers, or you want to get to those a little bit later?
Yeah, we might just kind of sprinkle them in, but
Okay.
I think the big one is 8 out of 10 of your clients, people who are paying a preparer today, are absolutely willing to pay more if you can show them better financial outcomes.
Well, what's also concerning is the number of clients that think you're already doing it.
Yes.
So, I mean, how many times have you guys picked up a new client where they said, oh my gosh, my CPA just doesn't even call me back or give anything. I feel like they're just filling out the forms. And is that then what you end up doing? Like, are you just filling out the form again? We built our entire firm when we were doing tax prep on the simplest thing is like, my guy actually stops and gives me ideas. At tax time, we're finding ways to save them thousands of dollars for stuff they just didn't know they could take. That really wasn't even advice. I was just going, hey, y'all, you missed out on this. And that just made our firm blow up. And that's when we leaned into, let's be more proactive to it. So the client actually thinks you're already doing it. So go ahead and do it, but just don't forget to charge for it. Tell them, oh no, you only hired for me the tax prep. Would you like the advice now? That's an extra bajillion dollars, or whatever you're going to charge.
But you kind of hit on the accountant's biggest fear, which is starting to present tax advisory services to them and then being like, why haven't you already been doing this for me? And I promise you, they actually don't say that. They're just happy to have it. So you just have to be clear about the definition of what a tax preparer versus advisor is.
Yeah, that's one of the 5 myths that we kind of cover that many preparers believe that their clients will react negatively about this. And again, you touched on it, we're givers, we're educators, we usually do provide advice in that preparation process. The way those taxpayers that we went out and talked to talk about that is they say it's kind of like fatherly advice. I get that as you're delivering the return, and we don't usually do much with it.
Right.
And because that's not the point in time when they're thinking about planning or taking action, and they don't always understand it because we are usually in a hurry during busy season. So one of the toughest things for most preparers is bifurcating that compliance work from the advisory work and separating those. And when we learn to do that, then it becomes much easier to deliver those advisory services.
And the simple math, I mean, we're all business owners, and if you're an employee, it's still the math's the same. If you lose some clients because they're like, oh my gosh, you weren't doing this, and they get mad, which is minuscule. Jackie's right, you're not going to lose that. If you lose any, do you believe, now here, let's do some mathiness. Do you believe that you're going to make more money because of the advisory services than those few people that leave? I'm kind of thinking you're going to be okay.
Okay, we're going to pause just briefly to display on the bottom of the screen the first CPE code for this session. Time for CPE. So be sure to write this down. There will be 2 more codes, and then at the end of the day, you'll be able to collect your CPE by clicking the Get CPE option at the top of the screen, and just re-enter these codes, and you can download your certificate right there. So let's dig a little bit more into your clients and their reaction to this. And to me, it's kind of a good guy, bad guy thing. I mean, you often bring bad news to clients when you're just a preparer, because, you know, a lot of the time they owe money. Whereas there's nothing bad about being an advisor, because it's all about, you don't advise someone on how to pay more taxes. You're always advising them on how to lower their tax bill or position themselves so that they're in a better tax setting. But does this apply to all clients, the need for advisory work?
Yeah, what we hear from firms who are leading with advisory is that they very much focus on business owners. Business owners. That can be real estate, that can be, you know, closely held businesses, investments. But in their practice, in a multi-service practice, it tends to be about 35% of the clients. And of that 35, about 30% of that is business owners. And then the next 5 is high net worth clients. And that's really what the data shows. When we look at returns by preparers, about 7% of those are returns that are over $250,000 of income. So those are your higher earners, your higher net worth accounts. We all wish we had more high net worth folks, but that is kind of the breakdown. It's 5% of high net worth, 30% of business owners. And what we find is most firms are not interested in offering advisory to just W-2 clients or transactional 1040 once a year kind of clients, at least not to start with.
Yeah, that's true, but you can. And so I think kind of as like an easy first step, if you have a lot of 1040 clients, you don't necessarily have a lot of business or high net wealth, which is what I specialized in, then just start small. You know, focus on some of those 1040 advantageous things, maximizing an HSA, itemized deductions, charitable contributions, and then show or visualize that value. And so that alone will help you not have to justify your bill, because you just saved them $2,500 instead of the accountant down the road.
It's all about ROI. I mean, obviously, and Jim points out the reason high net worth and business owners is where you go is, yeah, that's where I can get the bang for the buck.
Right.
I mean, I can, if you're at a 37% bracket and in California, I can get ROI.
Yeah.
Like it's boom, instantly. And if you're not, then it's really about your fees, right? If I'm going to charge you $2,000, I need to find you $2,000. Or, and don't forget, it's not just the tax savings. You could be helping them with audit protection. Maybe they're about to screw something up so bad, and you're going to say, well, you could do this, and your audit will cost you $20,000, or we can fix it. And so there's a lot of ways to handle that. But yeah, the business owner is where you're going to get the ROI. Don't forget that a business owner is still someone that just owns rental real estate. It's someone that just has a side gig. So any 1099 is a business owner. And a lot of times that's missed. You know, the client comes in and says, well, you know, I just do a little side work. I only make a couple $1,000 on that teaching, tutoring, whatever.
That's gold, right?
Oh yeah, knuckle crack. All right, let's do this, baby.
this.
Oh, did you lose 10,000 this year? But you're right. There's so many people that are out there, but it's all about ROI. I mean, you have your fee and you have the ROI that you can create. But help anyone and everyone you can, as long as it makes business sense for you. But don't, again, to Alexandra's point, don't give it away for free. You know, you deserve to be compensated for your knowledge.
So I have a few comments and questions coming in from the audience. One person said, it would be great to be able to do this, but I have clients that expect advisory services as part of their tax prep engagement and get pushback on the upcharge for advisory services.
Yeah.
That's it. They're not good clients. If they don't
may
appreciate
not
it.
be presenting it in a way that's
Right.
separating that out and that's compelling. And so
So how do you start doing that?
yeah, so we have a lot of resources, templates, trainings, and I know both our other guests also have good resources and training to do that, but there's good ways to present that out and just update your menu of services. So you mentioned audit protection. One of the things that we learned in the taxpayer insight is the higher the income, the more those folks worry about a potential audit. So providing that peace of mind of notice, response, audit protection, build that into your menu of services. Maybe that's not in your basic bucket or your middle bucket, maybe that's in your highest bucket. We need to update that menu of services that we're offering, and most experts that are moving towards that subscription model, the Ron Bakers of the world that kind of promote value pricing and subscription, usually there's 3 buckets. Good, better, best menu of services, and we want to put in all the things that we're going to do for each of those services. And when we present it well, it usually goes over really well. What we hear from firms who've done that is, generally 90% of the clients are just going to say, yeah, that makes sense, let's do it.
Well, and it's positioning too, right? I mean, you can, and specifically to that question, you can say, I absolutely appreciate that you believe that that was included and should be. It's not. If you would like it, here's my offering. And you have to hold your ground because, I mean, I don't know about you, but do you want to be a martyr? I don't want to miss hanging out with my wife and kids because some client expected me to give them something for free. You just tell them, I understand that you want it, but that's separate service. That is, you don't buy the shirt and get the shorts for free, right? You also buy shorts. It's a separate thing. You don't get the package. If you'd like the package, here's the price. So just, unfortunately, you just got to be tough and just say that's what this is. And I didn't say it lightly. If they really become a schmuck, fire them. There are enough amazing clients out there, and there's not enough of us out there. I teach partly because I cannot land every client. I need to teach other CPAs how to be advisors because there are a lot of people that need help that I cannot personally help. So the more CPAs I can get educated on being advisors, the more people we help. Don't worry about the supply-demand curve. If they leave, you're gonna be fine, but hold your ground.
Yeah, I think setting the stage early is really, really important because it's just about boundaries up front and then just communicating it. So, I mean, the earlier you can communicate a 1099 deadline or a 1040 deadline or a tax planning deadline, the more control you feel like you have to enforce it. But I'm running this 10 days to closing a tax plan challenge because I noticed that accountants get stuck in all the tiny little caveats of how to do these steps. And the initial marketing or outreach to the client tends to be the hardest thing for them to do. And so there's a really simple email template that you can use that just says, hey, I'm starting to offer advisory services for a large ROI. Provide me a little bit of information about you. Here's a few questions, and I will provide you with a quote. So those key words like quote, let them know this is not a free service. So it's setting the stage appropriately up front.
It comes down to like sale being a 4-letter word. Like this, accountants don't know how to do it, right? Mm-hmm. So even just like little tips like that to get them started is awesome.
You're not selling, you're teaching. I mean, really, if all you're trying to do is, hey, I want to help you. Yeah, I'm helping you. That's all you're trying to do. And it just, unfortunately, my knowledge is the thing I have to sell.
But it also has to be a little bit more intentional. You can't help them like you were giving away the cow for free or the shorts for free or whatever you want to not give away for free, right? So, Gail, is it okay? Should we ask a poll question for the audience now? So throughout the day, today and tomorrow, we'll be asking the audience polling questions. These are not tied to CPE. These are just little tidbits of information to help us in the panel know where you're coming from. So the first question that we'd like to know is whether you feel that that your clients want advisory services. So we give you a few options. Yes, for sure. Some might be interested, most wouldn't, or none. I'd need a whole new set of clients. So we'll give you guys just a few minutes and keep that open, and then we'll reveal the results.
Okay, and we want to talk a little bit about kind of baby steps. If you're in a tax compliance service, you're preparing tax returns for your clients, and you think that this sounds appealing and you'd like to move into advisory service, it's not just quite that simple. I mean, what steps do you take to actually prepare yourself and your firm to do this and then position yourself to offer that to clients?
It kind of is that simple. Oh, that's what I love that. Because where it gets overwhelming is like, okay, I now have to build a whole new business plan, and I have to change my marketing, I have to change my software. No, honestly, the example I use all the time is you have recommended to someone at some point how to set up an S corporation, right? And all that's involved is, shoot, I'm going to fill out a 2553, and that's like 15 minutes, and then I'll charge them for 15 minutes of my time. I'm kind of thinking the IRS might be a little behind on stuff. You guys may or may not have gotten a letter 18 months later saying they've rejected the S Corp. And what do? Oh my God, I'll take care of that. And then you give it for free. But we also know you got to set up a reasonable comp. We also know you got to tweak the books if there's multiple owners because equity might be out of balance. So there's all this stuff. Why are you charging for 15 minutes and then dealing with all of that? Hey, let's just charge $2,500. Because see, that S Corp election you're going to do is going to save that client $10,000 a year. Mm-hmm. You tell them, you know what, I'll get this taken care of. I will quarterback this whole thing. I'll make sure payroll is done. And in case the IRS does ever correspond, I'll just handle that for free. Well, you're not. You just charge $2,500. Mm. Do it once. It doesn't have to be an elaborate plan. And Jim was actually talking about this the other day. Is we were discussing, we just need one action. Mm-hmm. You do it once, and you make, or like my lady that made 10K from one project, just do one. Mm-hmm. And you get an appetite for it, but you also just get the practice. And do it on the one client you don't care about. Try it, right? Where you choose to try it is just your choice. It can be that simple.
Or it could be the opposite way. It could be a client that you really trust and say, I'm trying to do something, would you kind of be my guinea pig, right?
Yeah, that's what I did. I went to like my most loyal client back from like 2012 when I saved him. I amended a return, saved him like $100K. He was reporting capital gains as royalty ordinary income, which was crazy. And I just knew he was kind of like my loyal fan. And so I went to him first and I said, hey, I'm trying this out. Can you be my guinea pig? And he was ecstatic. He loved the idea and the concept. But to go back to the question, I think there's kind of three things. Four. One, don't overthink it. Just like Sean said. Mm-hmm. Two, there's education that you probably feel like you need to feel more equipped to do the job. And so there's a lot of trainings out there. There's software platforms out there that can give you that education component. You've also got kind of that sales presentation side of things. And that's where coaching really, I think, helps, and mentorship and being around other colleagues that do this kind of thing to give you that confidence for you to feel like you're going to be okay doing the pitch. And then I think the third thing is really just tracking the implementation of the tasks on the back end, which is not that big of a deal, but that feels really, really overwhelming to accountants. And so again, there's a lot of resources out there that can help you do that.
Okay, we're going to break for just a moment to hear a word from our sponsor, Intuit. And then when we come back, we'll provide you with the second CPE code for this session. So we'll be right back.
Awesome. Something you've been waiting for is finally here. Introducing Intuit Tax Advisor. Tax prep and advisory tools together at last. With Intuit Tax Advisor, it's so easy to build custom tax savings plans for your clients, you'll wonder why you haven't done it sooner. You shouldn't. No resource like this has ever existed. Intuit Tax Advisor is the first of its kind. It's a proactive tax planning tool that can develop complex, personalized tax plans for your clients and provide them with easy-to-read, customized reports. There's no need for spreadsheets, scanning, or manual data entry. With Intuit Tax Advisor, you won't ever have to think about those things again, because client data is automatically mined from your Lacert or ProConnect software. Syncing data this way translates into far more accuracy for your clients and far less time for your practice. All legislated tax law updates are automatically incorporated into planning and projections with built-in compliance. Personalized tax planning is an amazing way to grow your business and provide value-added services for your clients. Intuit Tax Advisor provides you with things like smart suggestions that generate personalized tax strategies and insights directly from your client's tax return. You can choose to add them or dismiss them. It's up to you. You'll also have the ability to try different tax scenarios to see their implications. Don't see a strategy you want? Create your own in minutes. Save and modify it at any time. You can also choose from our library of strategies, where you can plug and play from hiring your kids to 401k contributions. You could even use one of the proposal templates to introduce your advisory services to clients. Once they accept, showcase the plan you've put together in a professional-looking, customizable report. Upload your logo, change colors, make it your own. Client tax plans can be updated all year round. Who doesn't love the joy of showing year-over-year comparisons, estimated tax savings, and quantifiable strategies with measurable results to their clients? Experience Intuit Tax Advisor for yourself today and take your practice from volume to value. Intuit Tax Advisor, tax preparation and advisory tools together at last.
We are back, and I'd like to give you our second CPE code for this session. That will appear on the bottom of your screen. So be sure to take note of that if you're planning on claiming CPE credit for this session. There will be one more code later on before we wrap this up. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about how you present this to your clients and how can you actually use tax advisory services to gain new clients. What do you guys think?
Gosh, where to start?
Yeah. Hey, it's an immediate differentiator. So in fact, Alexandra and I were just talking at the session. Somebody had asked that, how do I get advisory clients when I don't do tax prep? And naturally, if you do tax prep, that's a field that you can farm and you can create those opportunities. And there's value in that. But I actually get a ton of my leads from other tax preparers, because they want to prepare and they want me to do the talky part. And you may have noticed I talk a lot, so that's good. I'm leveraging to my strength. But they legitimately, April 10th, somebody calls you up and says, hey, I can't reach my tax preparer. So I get a lot of leads just from the other preparers. So how you market it can be anything, but a lot of times my marketing is talking with other professionals that are great at stuff that I'm not great at, or do the tax prep and have no interest in advisory, and then we'll get our leads that way. So the marketing and the conversation, a lot of it's just, you can just work with your peers. It doesn't even have to be sales pitch stuff. You can just say, here's what I'm going to do and here's how I'm going to help.
Well, and there's something, there's something to be said for that too, because if the people on this session, they don't want to do it, right? There's this trust that they can have with someone like you where they know that you're not going to steal their tax work.
Oh, I don't want it.
So we're not necessarily saying you absolutely, if you're like, no way, my clients don't want this, there is another opportunity where we like to promote the idea of the trusted advisor. So it's like, you trust me, Mr. or Mrs. Tax Preparer, so much that I am now going to also tell you what else you should do, even though I'm not going to get any financial benefit out of it. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, how you market it can be whatever is comfortable to you. Don't feel like it has to be a massive social media campaign, or I got to do a billboard, or oh, now I got to do blogs. Whatever fits you. But I will tell you that the easiest path is work with your peers. And I got to point out, it's raining clients. I charge to do a proposal. So there's opportunities out there. Just marketing it is just letting people know, but the biggest factor is you are different. If you do advice, you are different, period. How many times have we heard, well, my CPA doesn't call me back, and you're the one that calls them back on April 10th? Like I said, the field, it's just wide open on opportunities, but I get excited about it.
So there are actually several more questions that came in. Do we have time for a couple, sure. Gail? Okay, so the first one, this is interesting because we always have this ensuring success in December, so there's things of like timing of things. So the question is, now I lost it. How many months in advance to close of the financial year would you suggest to your clients to approach you for tax advisory services?
Oh gosh, as soon as you, like February, January, I don't know. As you're preparing, I was going to say for existing clients, as you're preparing their tax return, you can put in their post-tax note, hey, I'm doing more tax planning, schedule a meeting on my eCal this summer and let's get this done. You can set aside certain clients that you notice are going above a certain threshold on their Schedule C or something along those lines. Tax planning can be done any time of year. And I learned that once you become a tax advisor, November, December become even busier than April, which kind of scares a lot of people.
Yeah.
But once you get into a rhythm, you can get people scheduled throughout the year, proactively work on their plans, and be in a much better position. And then I have to answer the last question too. Estate attorneys are a great referral resource for new clientele. So don't even worry about marketing or sales and all that jazz. Just get in with somebody that works with high net wealth, that works with substantial business owners, and they will just start flowing the leads your way because they need the help too.
So you're saying use your now 100% meal deduction to have coffee with the attorney so that you can have clients.
Yes, but that's only through the end of the year.
Yeah. You got a month. Network and schmooze. But
So interesting follow-up is a question is, do you pay the tax preparer for the lead? Or to reward them in some way, especially if you're not giving them any work?
I bury you in tax leads. Dude, I mean, I have had no less than 3 times in the last couple of years where a CPA said, stop. I can't take any more. And actually, hey, Michael, if you're listening, Michael said to me just, okay, now I'm ready to take some more. That's fine. Turn the spigot on and off. You're not offending me when you say no. I would rather you cry uncle and not give terrible service. Like, my reward is, man, I'm going to, all those leads that I still get, because how many times do people say, well, and you're going to do the tax prep? Oh, no, I'm not. I'm going to refer you to somebody that's brilliant that is, and I'm going to focus on the advice. So it's not a referral fee thing. I don't expect it back either. I don't need to send me a referral if I send you. We're just going to help each other out. But I've beat up a few CPAs that had way too many clients and they cried uncle. So I don't know if that's a good referral fee or not, but I think it worked.
Yeah, I think most of the firms do still enjoy doing preparation and the advisory together. And one of the myths is, hey, I'll do this with my new clients that I bring in. What we actually find is those firms that are leading with advisory actually worked with their existing clients that already know you, already trust you, already pay you for your services. And they just expanded their offering to say, hey, now we're including planning, and that might be once a year planning, it might be quarterly, or it might be monthly, depending on how complex that client is or how many businesses and investments and things they have. But very much it's the existing clients that you have and just letting them know that now you're offering these services and then presenting that in a way that's compelling that we've been talking about. Mm-hmm.
Jackie, you started off the session by saying there's all these different acronyms, and so now there's a question, and I'm confusing myself. It says, are tax advisory services the same as tax planning services, or is it something else?
Let's pick a new name, right? Go for it.
Well, I guess what people are trying to kind of do now is say that tax planning is kind of a one-time event, kind of like tax preparation. I disagree. I think it can be an ongoing event, and I call it tax planning all the time. But the cool new word is advisory, and I mean, that is what we're doing. It's an ongoing relationship. And so, yeah, I mean, call it whatever you want. Just proactively communicate to the client, get the savings for the client. They'll be happy, win, win, win.
Make up any name you want, y'all. It's we're SMD Consulting and Accounting. Oh my gosh, we're just consultants, which means we don't do advisory or planning. Well, yeah, we do that too. But do you do strategy? Yeah, I do strategy. But do you do tactics? Oh my gosh, people, seriously. Pick a name, call it Beetlejuice. I don't care. Just help them, and it'll work out. But that's CAS 2.0 versus CAS. I mean, that's a whole new thing. Wait, what does that mean?
We are actually, that's a good teaser for a session we're going to do later
Oh, I
today.
did it again. Look at that.
We swear we did not give her a script for this.
Trust me, I am not scripted. You might have noticed that. It's whatever you choose to call it. So just set your plan, set your program, call it what you want. The client understands that synonyms are synonyms.
I'd like to mention and point out that if you're contemplating adding advisory services to your the services that you offer for clients, and you've been doing tax compliance, there's a good way to get started on kind of feeling your way as to what you can recommend or suggest to clients. And AICPA has a tool called Analysis of a Tax Return for Financial Planning Opportunities. And what this does is it goes through a sample tax return line by line, and on every single line it says these are some opportunities that may be appropriate for planning. And it's a fantastic tool. It's several pages long. I'll say it again, analysis of a tax return for financial planning opportunities. I believe you have to be a member of the AICPA tax section to get that, but if you're a tax person, you probably are in that section. So it's a great resource for getting started, just to analyze a tax return with these points in mind, and then make notes of, I could talk to my client about this, or this applies to my client. So it's a great way to just start putting your mindset into doing planning instead of just compliance work.
Mm-hmm. And don't feel overwhelmed, because that is a really long checklist. I say just pick 5 to 7 big hitter items, and you can kind of do a phased approach. I like to do phase 1 of tax planning, where I identify about $30,000 of tax savings and initial implementation fee. And then you can always come back as you get to know the client better and have a better relationship with them to present more ideas.
You guys know so much more than you give yourself credit for. I mean, my gosh, the stuff that's in your head that the client doesn't understand. I mean, it is simple as you're scanning the return and go, your S corporation, you paid $300,000 of wages but lost $50K. Mm-hmm. Right away, you know they've messed up. You fixed it. You have a tax planning opportunity right there. You do know you can do a retirement account. Hey, I see no auto. I see no cell phone. I see no office supplies. These exist. That's tax planning. Yeah. That's it. It doesn't have to be rocket science. We get so caught up in trying to find something exotic. You know, I really need to find a charitable elite annuity trust opportunity here. What?
No.
So it doesn't have to be exotic. Believe it or not, the blocking and tackling that you guys already know, that's revenue, that's opportunity. It's a way to help people out. And I know it feels redundant telling it to 150 clients. That's 150 people you help with saving thousands of dollars every single year, because they just simply don't know it.
Yeah, we find on average, we launched Intuit Tax Advisor in August, and we have basic strategies. These are things that most preparers know about. Hire your kids, S corporation, retirement plans. These are not rocket science things, but just on average, so far preparers are identifying about $22,000 per client per tax plan. So that's substantial, and probably more than what you're able to communicate just doing tax preparation and traditional compliance.
Their tax preparers are identifying $22,000 in savings for
in tax savings per plan.
Tax savings.
How much are you going to charge for that? About $150, give or take?
Definitely not.
Yeah,
Definitely
exactly.
Not.
That's the point. Is it only took me an hour to go through this, so here's my invoice for $300. No, I'm going to do an analysis. It's going to be $3,500, because you know on average you save $22,000. They may balk at the $3,500, but you don't need to land 50 of those. Yeah. Land 10. That's a pretty good week.
Yeah, and we also find don't feel like you have to have every strategy ready to go. Start with a few, talk through those, 2 or 3, and then when you finish those, you can move on to other ones. Again, you're not selling a report, you're selling your service, your expertise, your experience. It's aligning with that client goals and having those ongoing conversations. Where do you want to be in a year, 3 years, 5 years? Both personal, family, education, charitable. There's so many areas to kind of dive into for their goals, and then to start, having conversations and building strategies from those conversations. You don't have to have the answers up front to start having the planning meetings and appointments. It's about getting into the rhythm and aligning your perspective looking forward with the clients and really helping support their goals and their plans. And that's really what you're selling, is your expertise in helping them reach their goals.
Yeah, I think the most important meeting that I have after I do an initial plan for a client is going to be their annual revisiting of their strategy. That's how you ensure that no one's upset about their billing and that you got everything done that you were supposed to get done. And so we actually revisit, here's what we projected we could save you, here's what we actually did, and then you can adjust pricing and packaging at that point as well.
Right, because when you're telling these anecdotal stories, like, oh, I saved somebody $10,000. On average, we save you $22,000. They're like, yeah, right. Like, what am I going to get? And then they're taking a risk, right? Because it's something that they're not already paying for. So now, even if they're only paying you $2,000, thinking they're going to get $22,000 back, they're not sure. And if they're low risk tolerance, how do you convince them?
Here's a best practice, and you're welcome to steal this because we use this. It's the client success tracker. We have in every client's file, what did we do for them? and what did we save them? And because you're going to forget, right? The strategy in February, you might forget because you're so wound up in November. But if you're just documenting, oh, by the way, I did this S election. Oh, by the way, I let them know they could write off a car. Oh, by the way, they hired their kids. And you quantify that at the end of the year when it comes time for renewal for your package. Well, it looks like this year, I only saved you $42,000.
Yeah.
So hopefully next year I could be successful. I mean, they're going to fall all over themselves, and they do, unless they're unreasonable, because there's plenty of people that don't perceive the value of advice no matter how hard you try, and it's just never going to work. I had a guy that, I'm not joking, very first strategy, I'm looking at him as a prospect. I'm going to save him $100,000 in the first year, and every year from here on out, just with a couple quick changes. And he goes, well, that's going to cost $10,000. You know, I ain't paid no $10,000 for an accountant before. Yeah, that's why you're paying the IRS $100. And it was a one-time fee to clean up a mess to get him on the right track, and he wouldn't hire us. We tried to have that conversation multiple times, and it was stubbornness and the perception that we've created that we're inexpensive and that we're just going to give you this advice for free anyways. We've got to make a paradigm shift in what we do. We bring so much value that we need the clients to understand that you don't get it for free.
How do I get an example of the client success tracker?
I don't have one to send, but I will tell you it is nothing more than an Excel spreadsheet. I'm serious. We fancied it up with a little more stuff. It is, here's the client and line item number 1. What did we do? How much did I save? What date? It truly doesn't have to be elaborate. You know, it's track it. And it could be an Excel spreadsheet saved in every client file in your document system. It could be one single spreadsheet for everybody. Please don't do that. That's tough to sort. But it's really just where you keep your client information. If you're using a practice management software, put it as a note right there in the file, and you're set. It doesn't have to be big.
Okay, Jim wanted to talk a little bit about Intuit's new tax advisor program, and so we're going to, rather than a commercial break, we're going to have a live commercial. Jim's going to just tee you up with a little bit of information about this new product.
So yeah, and just building on the question that was just asked about how do you track that, we've launched Intuit Tax Advisor this year really to help support firms that want to lead with tax advisory services. So we analyze that tax return that you've already prepared and give you some suggestions or insights from that data. And you're the advisor, you're the expert, so you decide whether or not that strategy actually makes sense for that client. And you can add strategies and then adjust the amounts within those applicable limits. And we do the heavy lifting of calculating the tax savings associated with each of those strategies using multiple different rates. So sometimes there's SE rates, federal, state, capital gains rates. All of that stuff is calculated in there. The tool itself does give you some guidance, a strategy card with some research, with some background for that strategy. But again, most of these, you're probably going to be somewhat familiar with the strategies anyway, and you can use that to summarize various tax strategies and have that conversation with your clients. What we find is about 80% of firms like to prepare a plan before they meet with the client, and about 20% of you say, I'm just going to get in there and start talking to the client and throwing things on the screen. And so it works both ways. You can either prepare it ahead of time and have a conversation, download a PDF, or show it on screen. And really helps create that report, that client deliverable. And what we find from traditional tax planners, which we have lots of those at Intuit too, about half of you are not comfortable sharing those reports with your clients anyway because they're not very client friendly. So this does give you a deliverable that summarizes those tax savings, makes it easy to track how much you've done for your client this year. We even have some firms that start to total that up for all their clients and even show on their website, hey, we have saved $10 million for our clients. And that's a very different value proposition that you're putting out there in the world. Instead of I'm the tax guy or I do tax and accounting, hey, we saved our clients X amount of money is a very different value proposition. So we want to help support firms in that. So Intuit Tax Advisor is a solution that's out there that has about 30 strategies in it now, and we continue to add more and more strategies to it.
Jim, a few people from the audience are asking if they don't use Intuit's tax software, can they still use this product?
Well, you can start using Intuit tax software. That would
I
help.
had a feeling that would be the answer.
Yes, you can actually, so you can, some of those you can import into ProConnect Tax Online and then begin to use Intuit Tax Advisor.
Wonderful.
Okay, we want to display our third CPE code on the screen right now. So this will be the third code. Record this if you're planning on collecting CPE for this session. And I think we're about to wrap this up. We just want to have final words from any of you about how you can encourage people to go forward in this new area of advisory services.
I'll start. So thank you, Gail, for offering this session on tax advisory services. And again, at Intuit, we got a lot of free education, templates, resources to help support you in your journey to deliver tax advisory services. And then, of course, if you're using our tax products, Intuit Tax Advisor to help support you there. But there are lots of great communities, resources, experts out there. And so we want to support you in that journey to lead with tax advisory.
Like what kind of community, Jim?
Hey, Jackie.
Yeah, so I mean, I have a Facebook group of about 6,000 accountants, and so these questions stem so much stuff that we could talk more about. And so join us in Accounting Firm Influencers. Everybody here is a part of that group, and we can continue the discussion, or just find us on LinkedIn or Twitter, Tax Twitter. And we can kind of go from there. But yeah, there's definitely so much more to share, and it's really my passion to do so. So thank you for having me.
And just say the name of that. Is it Accounting Firm Influencers on Facebook?
Accounting Firm Influencers.
You can probably drop the link in the chat.
Yeah. And, you know, and like Jackie, my passion is, that's why I started Chief Proactive Advisors, right? I mean, I've had whole curriculums and master classes and programs for teaching people how to make the conversion to advisory. And one of the important things about it, and this is really at the heart of what I teach, your advisory is different than my advisory, and that's perfectly fine, because you're going to have gifts that are different than my gifts, and that's awesome. And I found that if you focus on what you're great at, who you actually want to help, because see, you do get to choose who your clients are. It's kind of shocking how that works. That you can actually be more fulfilled in your career because you're doing what you love to do, you're helping who you want to help, and you're giving the advice. You don't have to blow the firm up to be an advisor. You can do it in any way, shape, or form that you want. You can add an extra department. I tried that, by the way. It didn't work because every single time tax season hit, the consultants would come over and help the tax team because we're a team. And so then everybody's working 90 hours again. So we chose to fire the tax returns because it created capacity to answer questions on April 10th that we couldn't do no matter how hard we tried. That's us. That doesn't mean you can't pull it off. You can just do one little extra service. It can be one end of year meeting, it can be whatever you choose it to be. Don't let yourself drown in this. There's just too much information out there, and paralysis by analysis is what accountants tend to do. Try something, try something, try something. Basic tax strategies, you just sit down and meet with them in the summer and go, did you know you could deduct this? And you help them. You give them an accountable plan worksheet. Anything, just help them, because there's too many people out there that need help, and we're not helping them the way they should be.
All right, well, thank you so much for a great session. Thank you to our panel. Thank you to all of you who were watching. And don't go away, because we'll be back shortly with our next session, which is on starting a technology-focused practice. But we're going to wrap this up and take a quick break, and we'll be back at the top of the hour.